Hi guys, thank you for joining. This is Essence of Science, and today we're talking about pollination. I'm Amanda Arbogast.
And I'm Dr. Abbasi for Essence. And the reason I'm laughing is because Amanda has these phases, like, last year or last 2 years, it was a chicken phase.
No. You don't know about what's going to happen this weekend.
Okay.
I'm planning on fixing my chicken coop this weekend. On Monday.
Okay. Well, it was chicken, and she had the most spoiled chicken in the whole planet. And each egg, I can tell you, costed at least $100 because that much, how much, and the whole wildlife in Minnetonka.
They're still there. The other day was
angry that you don't have food for them anymore.
No, they are. Okay. Recently, I went out to my backyard and something had slaughtered a bird. There was feathers everywhere. I don't know. It wasn't obviously one of my chickens because it's been so long, but they're still in my backyard. But I wanted to talk about pollination and pollinators in general. So what Dr.
Because she has now bees.
Bee phase.
Yeah, she's in the bee phase. After she fed the entire wildlife of Minnetonka with chicken food and the leftovers, and sometimes even things that you would say, are you going to feed that to your chicken? Like, this is too good to give it to chicken, let me eat it.
It's for the chickens.
Okay. And there were this possum and raccoons. After the raccoons and possum, that they didn't get enough food, they actually ate the chickens because until then they were getting eggs,
pizza.
So the eggs that Amanda would get would be that literally left over from the possum and the raccoons. So
we actually had to race. I would have to wake up as early as I can and get out there, and then get out there right when I get home from work, because sometimes they would come. The raccoons would come in the middle of the day and chill in the yard. I have photos of it.
Laying down in the back and say, oh, this is all you can eat buffet and so on. Okay.
So now I have bees. Bees can still get attacked by raccoons. But I think I'll be okay because I'm gonna have chickens again. Just kidding.
so that the raccoon can eat the chicken, not the honey of the bees.
Yeah, but I'm learning a lot about my bees, or about bees in general. So I wanted to quick talk about bees, pollinators, because obviously.
Why do we need bees? Because somebody, I don't want to call the name, said we don't need bees.
Have you heard of wind?
Have you heard of winds?
But actually, that's not true. We do need bees. 1/3 of what we eat.
That is not scientifically. That's not even a question.
No, I know. That's what I was just about to say. 1/3 of what we eat is directly thanks to the bees.
No, 2/3 of what we eat connected to pollinators. Not necessarily the bees.
No, but what I'm saying is 1/3 of what we eat is directly related to the bees, not just pollinators in general, but we need the bees. Like, this is an example. If an apple orchard doesn't have bees next door or close by, they have to hire someone to go and individually pollinate each individual flower of the apple tree.
Yes, they get a brush. They get it from one apple to male apple to female apple and so on. But do you know why they do that? Because if they don't do that, their crops drops like 1/7 of what it's supposed to be.
And these humans, when it's done by a human, they can only do about 5 to 7 trees a day.
Whereas what they do now, they hire these trucks. They come with the bee hives or beehive. So then they come, it's closed, then they open it up, the bees go and do their job, and the farmer pay the beekeepers
a lot.
Because it compensates for that. So anybody who thinks wind is enough, you better go and put a wind turbine or something with these farmers.
But not only that.
If that would be true, you could make a lot of money if that was true.
But it has to be very specific. It can't be random like that. The bees are landing inside the flower. They have hair. The bees have hair all over the body.
There is a co-evolution between the flower and the bees.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that.
Go ahead.
Did you guys know if we didn't have bees, flowers would smell like decaying dead bodies? Literally.
Like shit.
Because flowers have evolved to attract bees. Flowers are beautiful colors and beautiful scents because I think they call it like bee purple or something about bee purple. As that's the special color of the flower because the bees are attracted to that. And the reason why it smells like shit is because if we didn't have bees, the flies would be attracted to the flowers, and then the flowers would evolve to what the flies want to smell.
As well, in the Central America, in the Amazons, there are flowers that are specifically developed, co-evolved to attract the flies. And those flowers smell like sewage.
Yeah.
Literally, they smell like sewage because they're not trying to attract bees. They're trying to attract that specific flies that are attracted to sewage. And guess what? Which smell do you like, sewage or flowers?
I already know. I want flowers.
Yeah, why? I would say 99.9999% of the human prefer flower smell to sewage and shit
Exactly.
smell. Why is that?
Why do we prefer flowers over sewage? Because I think if we smell sewage and decaying stuff, we know something's wrong and it's dirty.
That kill us.
Yeah, more likely to have diseases.
Humans who are attracted to smell of sewage usually die. Those people who survived, they tried to stay away. As a matter of fact, even the smell of that produced vomit to throw up. If let's say we used to live in a group of people together, everybody would eat the same thing. If one person throws up, it's possible, more likely, that everybody else ate the same. So even looking at somebody throwing up, even smell of the vomit and smell of the
even the
decay,
sound. No, exactly.
So naturally we are attracted to smells that are good for our biology. But the flowers didn't develop for human. Flowers developed. Now, this is the part I have to go millions of years back.
Yeah, you have like a little time machine.
Yeah. What is the age of Earth or age of solar system? About 5 billion years. So our sun is a middle-aged woman. What's the age of Earth? 4.5 billion. When did life started on planet? About 4 billion years ago. When the first 4 billion years ago, for the first 3.2 billion years, the life was made out of one cell organism. That's it. No flowers, no sponges, nothing, no insect, nothing. It was so only 800 million years ago, life started being multi-organism. When do you think we start having plants?
A little bit before humans?
No, a lot more before humans. We have plants for hundreds of millions of years. Okay, but it wasn't plants weren't initially there. When did we start having flowers? Now we have about 600 million years plants. Okay, some variation. When did we start having flowers? I want to say somewhere between 100 and 200 million years ago. So flowers are something very new. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT because that's actually, I think, a very important question. How many million years ago did the flower evolve? So let's see what ChatGPT says. And ChatGPT says 130 to 140. Yeah, I was pretty good. So really this is really new development. Mm-hmm. So why? And that's exactly the point. This is the age of bee and bee ancestor helping. Plants and bees are helping each other in a co-evolution, in a symbiosis to promote each other. This is now. How many years have human existed on the planet? 100,000 years. It's like nothing. It's like we don't even count for biology of the earth, and that is our arrogance that we are destroying the planet. But we don't even count. About 140, 130 million years ago, plants and bees, they co-evolved with each other. They found out how they can help each other the best. Like for a gram of honey, they're like, you know more about that.
I don't know the exact number, but I know bees have to go to like thousands of flowers for 1 gram of honey.
Yes.
And that's their food, actually. The honey?
that is their food, that is their sustenance, but as well,
that's their home.
Yeah, well, the wax is their home and so on and so forth. And that is as well how they just behave is, but we are going to talk about pollination, not about the bees. These plants, not all plants have flowers, but we mostly know flowering plants because that's
what's attractive to us, and also
abundant. There's a lot abundant as well. Those flowering plants, there is another method of the plants to not only cross-pollinate, but as well spread their seeds.
Well, and also most of the stuff that we eat, fruits and vegetables, come from a flower first.
Yes. Now, see, what is the pollination? Now, very early on, even before we had multi-cell organism, life decided the best way to survive and adapt is a sexual reproduction, because sexual reproduction, I mean, everybody knows what sex is, but sexual reproduction is not what we understand under sex. It is the exchange of genetic material. Now, that's not the only way of reproduction. You can have a cloning. You can, like sponges, or certain worms, you cut them in 10 pieces, each piece become a worm and so on.
Like a potato, kind of.
Yeah, and that is a problem as well. Many of the things we do now, instead of we do a sexual reproduction, we clone them. We call it monoculture, and that they are extremely prone to disease.
Kind of like a purebred dog.
Yeah, should I give you an example?
Yeah.
Everybody knows about the Irish famine. When was it, 1800 sometimes? Practically, they had a kind of, I think, fungus destroying their potatoes. Millions died. Many moved to US. And that's another story. They got discriminated. Irish people got discriminated in US. So okay? Irish people, whiter than you and I. They were discriminated and they were called names and so on and so forth. So this the hatred for immigrants is nothing new in US.
Never has been.
But this monoculture was that potatoes were cloned. And one fungus destroyed them all. And then millions, tens of million people died. And that happens as well in any species. If everything is the same, there's evolutionary arm race, we call it, that the animals, plants, bacteria evolve to take advantage. If everybody looks the same, they will all die. So life decided sexual production create a variability that is needed to survive and adapt. It's always preferred. Okay? So there are even fish, they always do sexual reproduction, but if there is no male around, they just turn male and female and they inseminate themselves, they do clone of themselves and so on. So life tries many different things. It's amazing. But now plants decided that sexual reproduction is the most important thing for them. And now they cannot walk. They cannot just like really go to the cat and hump. So what do? They have to have something that they bring the genetic material from one plant to another.
Right.
And
like wind. Animals.
Wind is very, very inefficient.
Yeah, it's like the least one. It's very inefficient.
Wind is very inefficient. Whereas it's not only that they carry that the fuzzy thing on their feet is made for attracting, and it goes even beyond that. It's mind blowing. The plants, the flowers, they charge this pollen with the electric charge that attracts to those fuzzy feet better. And when they go to the electric charge again reverses, and then that's unbelievable mechanism in that.
And the flowers let off like hormones or like some type of chemicals that attract certain bugs that kill bugs that kill the flower.
This is amazingly complex thing, but at the end of the day, it is as is. The plants that have the best strategy survive. The plants that they don't have the best strategy, they don't propagate, and we end up with the beautiful system that the bees travel like miles and
They
miles.
can travel 3 miles.
Yeah,
3 to 4 miles.
yeah.
They can travel more than that, but it's just not as likely and unsafe. But also think about like dandelions. Dandelions are all over the place because of the system that they have for these floaty little things to fly around. Or
So
like
that is after they pollinate. Now they have to spread
their
seeds.
seeds.
That is a whole different thing. It's not the pollination itself. That all the method the plants have to spread their seeds is unbelievable. Now, this method of the of literally spreading their genetic material, it's so refined, so tuned to each ecology. That is, I mean, I couldn't watch these the documentaries enough, but specifically regarding the bees, it is that it has an actual effect on our crops.
Oh, yeah. We were talking about, we said it earlier that I said 1/3, he said 2/3 of what you eat comes directly from bees.
Pollinators.
No.
I say 2/3 come from pollinators.
And I say 1/3 comes directly from bees. And I'm going to break down something I read recently. I actually read 2 things recently about like the breakdown of bees, but I wanted to talk about a Big Mac.
Big Mac?
Yeah.
You mean McDonald's?
Yeah. Why your Big Mac? You would not have a Big Mac if it wasn't for bees. So if you break down, like if you start with the bun has sesame seeds.
I wanted to make a really dumb joke that if it wasn't for bees, Big Mac would be Ig Mac.
Yeah, true. It would be gross.
Ig Mac.
So the Big Mac is known for having sesame seed bun. Your sesame seeds are directly related to bees. The sesame plant needs bees to help pollinate it. So take those off. You don't have those anymore. The wheat. It doesn't need bees. It just needs pollinators. But it's better with, like, it's more efficient with bees. So you can maybe have your bun, but you only get half. You only have the top or the bottom chews. And then you have lettuce directly from the bees. The lettuce needs to pollinate the bees. And then after the lettuce, there's also Big Mac sauce.
Tomato.
Yeah.
Ketchup.
Yeah, but the sauce. The sauce is made out of onions, garlic, and some other seasoning. Without bees, you would not have onions and garlic. So take that off too. There's a little bit
coming to Ig Mac now.
Yeah, it's now. So now you have cheese, tomatoes, patty.
How do you go from Big Mac to Ig Mac?
We already took away
the bees away.
Yeah, we took away the onions. You don't have relish. The dairy. You can have dairy without bees. But what the cows eat needs the bees. You won't have as much hay, so you would have less dairy. So pretty much if you and then the tomatoes also need the bees. That's pretty obvious. You just have kind of a shitty cheap patty with probably no cheese on it and half a bun.
Yeah, well, Ig Mac.
So, and I posted online, like, we need bees, whatever, 1/3 of our food, and people are like, what about Cool Ranch Doritos? Exactly what I just said. You would not have any of the seasonings. So yes, you would have the corn to make the Doritos, but you would not have any seasonings. We would be able to eat without bees, but you would have very bland, boring food.
Now, let's be very clear. Anything we eat is either the seed or the protective shell around the seed of a flower.
Yeah.
More or less. Well, roots as well. I mean,
anything that's not meat or dairy, like not an animal product.
No, but I'm talking about the plant thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we have as well, the stem, sometimes a stem and so on. But I would say 9 out of 10 times, what we human eat is either the seed itself or is the something that comes around the seed that plant made for us. So we are cherishing it. So we spread the seed.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, sometimes they do tricks on us. They make like there's a juicy, beautiful thing that you eat, but the seed itself is encapsulated in a hard something that goes in and out. And when it comes out, it already have
it's ready to be.
Yeah, it already has the I would say the manure and so on to.
But I think plants mostly do that with animals more than humans, right?
Oh no, see, that's a beautiful theory. Actually, I just read a book about that. So we domesticated dogs, right, and cats. But there's a theory they said they domesticated us, or we domesticated each other. Now, wheat, the most common kind of staple food.
Grain, yeah.
Okay. Did we domesticated wheat, or did we domesticate
No, I
us?
read that wheat domesticated us.
So what would, imagine you are wheat, you have this genetic material, and your goal is to have as many copies as possible. What would be a better way to take advantage of human brain, that all our industry, we take oil out of the corner, we build tractors, we flatten the land and so on, just to make your genetic material more. So if there was a mind behind that, couldn't be more refined to enslave humanity for millennia to spread your genetic material. So good job, Veet. You domesticated us pretty good.
I agree.
So coming back to pollinators, is as well, it goes in on to who is helping whom. It's not about that. It's in the
mutually beneficial.
It's a mutual beneficial kind of thing, that this pollinator, their survival, their success is depending on each other's success, and that is the best way of looking at that.
And when you say that, you mean the pollen producer and the pollinator, so like the flowers, the fruits, whatever, and the bee, because at the end of the day, we need bees, but bees don't really need us.
I would agree with that they could live with us pretty just fine. I mean,
they did in the past, right?
Well, you remember 140 million years flowers and pollinators, 100,000 years human. So I think they did just fine without us for a long time.
I think so.
And that in the biology and evolution, is what comes next is always depending on what has been there before. So it's not even question that we need whatever ecology that produced us, we are depending on it. But ecology that produced us is not really, it's like a cause and effect. So they don't need us, we do need them.
But bees and flies and bugs, insects aren't the only pollinators. Hummingbirds are pollinators.
Not as efficient.
Not as efficient, but they're
because the numbers are much lower.
Yeah, but they're efficient enough that flowers have evolved to fit the hummingbird better and attract the hummingbird better. Like they have that bell shape, so then the hummingbird can stick their nose inside.
And then when they have to go deeper and deeper, so they can attach things to the feather and so on, they actually make like a mask. For them to get the fruit, they have to go deep enough that the stuff get to their face and so on. That's amazing. Actually, they're tricky.
I know. The more you learn about plants, the more I think they're really interesting.
Brainless and
no
thing. They can't even talk to each other.
Oh my gosh, that's a whole other, the way trees talk to each other and protect each other.
Yeah, well, I mean, literally, like 9 out of 10 medication that we have is a mechanism of the plant protect itself against mammals. And that's why it has an effect on us, like digoxin, like opium, like lots of other things, and cocaine.
Yeah, but I was even more talking about if a tree, for example, if a tree drops a sapling, that tree knows that the sapling is their genetic relative, and they will move their branches dependent on how much sun that sapling needs. And the trees can communicate underground with their roots to talk about nutrients and who needs more and not taking more than they need and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, we are all part of one life. It's all genetically. Now, if you go back enough time, like if you go, I mean, you can measure that with our genetic variation. If you go back enough in time, human or chimps have the same ancestor. If you go back enough in time, all mammals have the same ancestor. If you go back in time enough, all fish and human have the same ancestor who made us and made them. And if you go back enough in time, plants and us have the same ancestor.
Don't mushrooms and humans have the same ancestor before the plants? And
mushrooms are more like animals than plants. So our ancestor that is the same with mushrooms is much younger than the ancestor that is with us and plants. But yes, The answer to that is that it is all one life.
One last cool little thing about pollen is that I learned from my bees. When you think of pollen, you think of what color?
Pollen?
Pollen? What color do you think of
I
it?
don't believe really, and I don't believe I know if pollen can have any color.
Well, usually people think of yellow when they think of pollen. When the pollen falls off of the flower, when you have a vase of flowers.
Yeah, I can see that.
But with my bees, when I watch them, I can see that the pollen is different colors. And sometimes they have because what happens is the bees go inside the flower and they get the pollen on their fur.
I know that, I think that pollen comes in all different colors.
Not all different colors, but a lot of different colors.
Okay.
Red, orange, yellow, and gray. But what they do is the pollen gets stuck on their fur, and then they use their hands and take it off and mix it with a little bit of nectar from the flower to make balls of pollen. And then they stick the pollen on the back of their legs and fly to the hive and then do whatever they do inside. But when you're watching them flying in the hive, you can see red legs, blue legs, mostly yellow. It's mostly yellow and a little bit of orange.
And then what do they do with it?
They make different things, like they make bee bread. They build their houses. They feed themselves. They feed the queen.
Animals.
They are insanely
So
crafty.
Amanda is in the bee phase.
Yeah, so get ready to learn a lot about bees. Thank you guys for watching. This was Essence of Science, and we talked about pollination. I'm Amanda Armagast.
And I'm Dr. Abbasi for Essence.
Have a good weekend.